Hello, everyone. I recently had a discussion with a brother the other day that brought up a topic we both encountered on this journey of realization. This same topic affects many of us, as the process itself can be very confusing at times. The topic is about humility and renunciation. Before I consciously began moving through this process of realization, I was very unbalanced. My mind, my physical being, all of it was completely vested in the experience with like no sense of spirituality at all. When I started to focus on spirituality and realized that this other world was in fact true, I completely ran away from this world in order to invest myself in the perception of God. This, while it was very beneficial for my growth, it also created a very unbalanced perspective. This time I went from one extreme to the other, shutting myself out from the world in order to pursue how to leave it. And I feel that many of us actually attempt to do this in order to escape this experience. But this in itself creates a judgment of the experience. We end up keeping ourselves here through our own attachment of hating it or not agreeing with it. And until we learn to accept it as being perfect, we're pretty much stuck in the loop. So, to go beyond this experience, we must release all of our attachments to the mind, its intellectual concepts, as well as the body and all of its forms of sensual experiences. This was taught by all the spiritual masters that have come here to help us. However, there is a process to this. If complete renunciation is chapter 12 in a book, and we're on chapter 1, we can't forget about the other 11 chapters. So, sure, it's possible to jump from 1 to 12 as everything technically already exists, but with our current conditioning, it's not very probable. It's like teaching someone to stop breathing when they've gone their whole life, breathing oxygen. And that'd pretty much be an impossibility for most, but, simply thinking about that, it's like, stop breathing, what are you talking about? That in itself, it simply shows how we need a gradual process to get through this. Everything in this experience is, and in this environment is here to help us grow. It's not here to destroy us or hurt us. It's how we perceive the experience and how we act that determines if something helps us or destroys us. It's like a hammer. You can use one to build a house or you can use one to tear it down. So it's never the tool, but rather the operator of that tool that determines its use. So instead of running away from something because we feel fear or difficulty, we should move forward, move beyond it. Use everything in this environment to help you grow. A yogi will use every tool at their disposal to further their progress. And when the tool is no longer beneficial, the yogi discards the tool. One doesn't hold on to the tool out of dependency, or else then it becomes an attachment. So use everything in this experience to help you grow. I chose a story from one of Paramahansa Yogananda's teachings. It's called A Saint Who Chose a King as His Spiritual Guide. And this story covers the topic of humility and renunciation. It's also great at showing this too. So, long ago, there lived a great sage named Vyasa. He was the writer of the greatest Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. By his great spiritual power, he invoked a saintly soul to enter the womb of his wife. As the baby grew within the womb, he taught the unborn child the secrets of the scriptures through the subconscious mind of the mother. This baby, when born, was named Shukadeva. Because of his prenatal training, he proved to be a most unusual child. At the age of 7, he was already versed in the difficult Hindu scriptures and was ready to renounce the world and seek a true master. In India, it is customary for a devotee to seek out a spiritual teacher until he finds one who he recognizes as his own God-chosen master, or guru. The novice, through inner fitful urgings, receives lessons from various sources, but when his spiritual ardor becomes very great, God sends him a guru. God uses the divine soul of the guru as his messenger or instrument to bring the novice back to his spiritual home in omnipresence. When Shukadeva decided to go in search of his guru, his father advised him to go see King Janaka, which is the ruler of the province. As Shukadeva entered the royal palace, he saw the king sitting on an emerald and diamond-studded golden throne, surrounded by courtiers and scantily clad women who were fanning him with big palm leaves, as is custom in India during hot season. King Janaka was smoking a big oriental pipe. This sight shocked Shukadeva. He turned back and started walking out of the palace. He muttered, "Shame on my father for sending me to a matter-soaked king. How could such a worldly man be my teacher?" But King Janaka was both a king and a saint. He was in the world, but not of the world. Highly advanced spiritually, he could telepathically sense the thoughts of the fleeing Shukadeva. The saint king sent a messenger after the boy, commanding him to come back. Thus the master and the devotee met. The king sent his attendants away and at once entered an absorbing discourse on God. 4 hours passed. Shukadeva was getting restless and hungry, but he dared not disturb the God-intoxicated King Janaka. Another hour had passed when 2 messengers arrived exclaiming, "Your Majesty, the whole city is on fire. The flames threaten to spread towards the palace. Won't you come and supervise the efforts to extinguish the flames?" The king replied, "I am too busy discussing the all-protecting God with my friend Shukadeva. I have no time for anything else. Go, help others to put out the fire." When another hour had passed, the same 2 messengers came running to King Janaka and cried, "Your Majesty, please flee. The flames have caught the palace and are fast approaching your chamber." The king answered, "Never mind, don't disturb me, for I am drinking the wine of God with my friend. Go, do the best that you can." Shukadeva was puzzled by the king's attitude, but he tried to remain likewise unaffected by the excitement. A short time later, 2 scorched messengers leaped in front of King Janaka, shouting, "Mighty king, behold the flames approaching your throne. Run before both of you are burnt to death." The king replied, "You both run and save yourselves. I feel too peaceful in the arms of the all-protecting God to fear the audacity of destructive flames." The messengers fled. The flames leaped towards the pile of books that Shukadeva had by his side, but the king sat motionless, indifferent. The alarmed Shukadeva lost his poise. He half rose from his seat and began slapping at the flames in order to save his precious books. King Janaka then just smilingly waved his hand and the fire miraculously disappeared. Shukadeva, in great awe, sank back to his seat. The king said calmly, "O young Shukadeva, you thought of me as a matter-drenched king, but look at yourself. You forsook the all-protecting thought of God to protect a pile of books, while I paid no attention to my burning kingdom and palace. God worked this miracle to show you that although you are a renunciant, you are more attached to your books than to God, or that I am to my kingdom, even though I live in the world instead of in a hermitage." Humbled, the young Shukadeva then recognized the saint king to be his guru preceptor. King Janaka put Shukadeva through a process of discipline to teach him the art of living in the world without acquiring misery-making attachment. One day, the king gave his new disciple 2 cup-shaped lamps filled to the brim with oil. Janaka said, "Hold the lamp on the palm of each hand and enter all the gorgeously furnished rooms of the palace. Come back to me after you have seen everything. But remember, I will refuse to train you further if you spill a single drop of oil on the carpets." King Janaka instructed 2 messengers to accompany Shukadeva and to refill the oil lamps with oil as quickly as they burned down. It was a hard test, but after 2 hours, Shukadeva returned triumphantly without having dropped any oil from the lamps in his hands. The king says, "Young Shukadeva, tell me in detail, what did you see in each chamber of my palace?" To this Shukadeva replied, "Royal preceptor, my only accomplishment was that I did not spill any oil on your carpets. My mind was so concentrated on the thought of not dripping oil that I did not notice anything in the rooms." The king declared, "I am disappointed. You have not completely passed my test. My injunctions were that you should see everything in all the chambers of my palace, and that you should not drip any oil from the lamps. Go back with the lamps, and remember, no spilling of the oil while you were looking carefully at everything about the palace. After 10 hours, Shukadeva calmly returned. He had not allowed any oil to drip, nor was he sweating with the excitement as before. He could answer all the king's questions about the contents, however minute, of all the palace chambers. King Janaka was pleased. "My son," he said gently, "attachment to possession, and not possession itself, is the source of misery. In this world, we do not own anything. We are only given the use of things. Some have more to use than others, but remember, the millionaire and the poor man alike have to leave everything, all possessions, when death comes. One should not live a one-sided life thinking only of God and neglecting one's duties in the world, like your concentration on the oil lamps and not seeing my palace. But on the second trip, you kept your attention principally on the lamps without spilling oil, and at the same time, thoroughly and minutely saw everything in the palace. So should you keep your attention on God, not letting a drop of your desire slip away from the lamp of God revealing wisdom, and yet devote part of your attention to thoroughly performing the God-given duties of maintaining yourself and the others in your charge."